Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're doing well. We're going to take a look at a game that I played of Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings, 100 Kingdoms against Sorcerer Kings. It's my first time playing against them in person, against the local guys. We've got our buddy collecting Sorcerer Kings with, of course, our other buddy Hayden painting them, which has gone very well. You guys will have seen the photos that I've been posting for that recently, looking amazing. So, obviously, it's not my first experience involving Sorcerer Kings. I've played against them several times online, and I've played as them several times online. I'm also participating in the new tournament we're doing on Tabletop Simulator, and I am running Sorcerer Kings for that tournament. One reason why I'm playing them online on TTS is that I think that right now they are the strongest faction, just post-patch. It's not by a long margin. I think that when Old Dominion went through that period where they were the best, they were far and away like way ahead of everybody, and then same with Drune more recently. But post most recent patch, I think Sorcerer Kings have come out on top for a few reasons. Number one, the new spell list that they've given the all of your casters is just so good. Let's just talk about the Fire Court list for starters. Whenever you activate a character, it gets a ritual token from casting a spell, so you can get something valuable out of your character activation all of the time. If something is in range, Burn to Cinders is just an amazing offensive spell, and if you have the Sorcerer Warlord like I take, you can actually bounce that into another spell which would do another 5 hits and spread the inflamed status around the enemy army. So they can be incredibly devastating at short range. But if you don't have that opportunity to cast a spell against an enemy regiment, well, you can use something defensive like the Tenacious 2 against shooting, which is amazing, or the Untouchable, which works in close combat as well. Or you can pump up your nearby regiments with Molten Blades to make them more effective in combat later in the turn. So it's just so flexible, whereas everybody else's spellcasters, you sometimes have a bit of downtime where you're not doing anything with your spellcaster, whereas with Sorcerer Kings, they get value every single time. Then, of course, there's the rituals where it gets a bit of out of hand, because you're essentially getting a free card in your stack every turn once you get into the late game or even the mid game. And some of those rituals are amazing. Like if you think about Fiery Dominion, that's giving you 4 wounds per brute regiment of Afrits, and it's a timed heal. It's not like regen where it doesn't really have any effect if your unit's not damaged, but when you get charged, you get broken, so it still doesn't have any effect because your unit's broken, can't heal. With the Fiery Dominion ritual from Sorcerer Kings, what's happening is that your unit's taking a little bit of damage, and then later on in the turn, after you've rallied them, the ritual kicks in and they just heal back, and it can feel almost like, adding another 100 points to your army every turn if you've got 2 or 3 regiments getting a stand back, which they can quite easily do. So I just find that absolutely nutty. And thirdly, the stats and rules that they've given to the sword dancers and Afrits at the moment is just crazy. It's so easy to get the inflamed status off on your regiment or the enemy regiment, and then suddenly you're hitting with like Juggernaut from 11 inches away, or you're triple activating with Conflagration, and you're doing all those relentless blows, usually with Molten Blades in there. And with your Afrits, you are getting rapid fire and torrential fire. And what I'm being told on Discord is that you apply the rapid fire, then the torrential, which I disagree with. I think that's stupid. But what they're saying is that if I roll 8 hits, and 4 of them are 1s, the rest of them are 2s, for example, and the rapid fire will increase that from 8 to 12, because every 1 counts twice, right? So with those 12 hits, then you apply the torrential to give them another 6 hits. It's badly worded, and I really think that they're going to get nerfed big time in the near future. I remember when the whole rule about entourage activations first came into this game, where what's called Corvus Belli, Parabellum said, look, we want to make it so that when you draw a character card, you can immediately activate the regiment that the character is in as your next card without any interruption. Your opponent doesn't get a turn, and because we want to make the Sorcerer King synergy, and we want to give spellcasters more to do. And unfortunately, that inadvertently made Wadroon overpowered, because what would happen at that time is that Wadroon would have the character put in the Conquest card, then the Slingers activate with their Conquest card, and they are fanatics and they just go nuts. So that got affected, but we're still in a situation where entourage activations are very, very powerful with the right characters, and what you can do with Sorcerer Kings now is you can have your Raj cast Molten Blades and then go immediately into your Sword Dancers, and if they're after a conflagration, you move up 6, then you charge 11, then you clash for like 1 billion hits, and everything's with Cleave 1, Deadly Blades, and it's just shocking. Anyhow, this will be my opponent's first go with Sorcerer Kings, and he's not really familiar with a lot of the tricks, so we'll be taking him through it. Let's have a look at the army list. So my list, let's just put this over here. This is a version of the Theist feudal list that I've been running a lot lately with the Noble Lord 8 Household Guard. Really love that unit. Armor of Dominion, one of the better items that you can take, because it makes the whole group of them immune to AP and Cleave and Smite, which is very, very strong. And obviously they hit like an absolute truck with Armsmaster in there. Mercenaries, Squires, and Knights, they all get the free Veteran from the Noble Lord, so that's why I put them all in that group. All those regiments benefit quite well from veterancy. Then, of course, the Mage with Water, she's usually there to heal the Household Guard, but sometimes the Militia. But we've got this other block of men-at-arms here who also benefit from healing, so that's why I've taken the Water Mage. Your basic Priest, I haven't assembled my Bowman yet. I don't really like him in the Sakurai, so the Militia with the Fragment is my go-to. They're obviously very fast with the Archangel around, and Supremacy turn gives the whole army Blessed. There's also the Elysian Fragment, which makes them very dangerous against certain monsters and other heavily armored opponents. Archangel still taking the shield version. I think that the +1 defense is more important than the version that does the smite hits. I really feel that acutely. I think that you want to protect it against a lot of shooting and and spells, of course, with Sorcerer Kings. So defense 4 is really critical. Again, the Noble Lord, I've taken this guy in the past. This is the Rob Shepard setup, as I like to think of it, with exactly 6 men-at-arms Servite, Seasoned Veteran plus this guy. It's all about getting the benefit of the Theist Priest and the Feudal Lord's reroll 6s onto the unit, which is pretty tough thanks to Hardened, and it's the Noble Lord himself who's doing the damage. 8 attacks, rerolls, Caledburn in there, Cleave 1, very, very strong. So if we come over to the Sorcerer Kings, this is pretty much the only list that my opponent can make with the models available to him. So let's not criticize the setup here. He literally doesn't own any other models other than these specific models. So this is literally the only thing that he can run. So Maharajah on the Mahout, fantastic. The Niyantran, whatever, that's just, it's just a thing that he wants to put in there to fill up the points. Fire and Earth is quite cool. Maharajah is considered, one of the better warlords, if not the best warlord, for being able to have 2 different courts, and obviously the faster rituals, which is very, very strong. Occasionally, the Earth court will be the way to go for spells as opposed to Earth. There's a couple of things in there which are a little bit better than Fire. There is one where you get trample or just healing, and that can be slightly more useful than a few of the things you can do with Fire, but most of the time it will be from Fire. So he's got Goals, Initiates, Mahout, Ravenar, just all the stuff in his collection. The reason why he's got 4 Disciples there is because one of the stands comes from the Mahout pack, because you can optionally have Favor of Hormus or whatever it is, or the shooting version with no character on it. So he's just moved over that stand here to the Disciples. Fire Sorcerer, Element of Protection, love this for the extra range, that is so critical. All of the Sword Dancers and Flamecasters that he can take, and the little Raj here in the Rajakur Regiment. So why don't we just dive into it then? We've got head-to-head as a mission. This one is, it's a pretty fun mission. It's really about going for that large circle in the mid-game, and then seeing if you can swing around to that other objective on their side of the board in the late game. But this is, of course, inclusive of army kills, so 2 points per card, basically. Every character and regiment, and then a bonus 2 for the Warlord, can really shore things up, even if you've been outscored on terms of the zones. If your opponent's just wiped you out, that can make a difference. Alrighty, so what we've got here is the table setup. Real quick, you can sort of see the large zone there. You get, might just move my cam for a second. So This large zone here is the one that you get 3 points per turn from, but I'm looking to score from that one in the distance. That'll give me 4 points per turn. We've got this forest, and this forest. It's hindering, obscuring, that sort of terrain. 1, 2, 3 hills. These large trees are, of course, impassable terrain, and that's generally our setup. I will be trying to bring on the mage and the priest. That is going to be taken automatically, and then rolling for the squires and the 2 units of crossbows. One of them has the mage in it. I passed all the rolls except for one of them, so we're just leaving 1 unit of crossbows off the table. Bringing in the goals here, this is the only light regiment for my opponent. He's also starting up a conflagration ritual early on, turn 1. Hasn't painted the whole army, of course. And then me, his goals are right down the middle of the board. For me, I'm going to head towards that large 3-pointer zone with the bulk of my stuff here. The priest, we'll get onto it, that can score 4 or more stands will do that, with the mage nearby to help out healing the militia as they come under attack, and the squires going up through the middle to combat the goals. Turn 2, though, most of the other stuff coming on now. We have all the character cards activating first. Noble Lord, Mage, Theist, Priest, just to wait for him to deploy his stuff. Then I'll deploy the rest of my stuff after I see where he's placed his cards, all of the militia and household guards and everything else coming on at that point. So we're seeing some flame casters opposite the priest position there. The mage, the sorcerer defending his home base. This is on my left-hand side. So she's kind of defending this home base 4 objective scoring circle. So we've got, again, the squires. They're just sitting tight, not moving any further forward, just waiting for him to come to me. I don't want to attack the goals and then getting countercharged by something else that could show up nearby. Over here we have the household guard, the massive chunky block deploying right behind the mage. Then in the following turn they'll have just enough speed to move directly through the mage and out to the other side. And then the other screening unit here is the squires for the men-at-arms. They're going to move past the squires into the forest, and they're quite a good unit to target the goals with, because I don't mind losing a stand or 2 against the goals, and then the Caledburn Lord can wipe the goals out and move on to everything else. And that forest is going to be quite good to protect him against the shooting from the Danur archers and the Efreet flamecasters, etc. And you can see my priest has moved onto the zone on the right there to pick up some scoring. So I just went through turn 2 quite quickly there. Turn 3, we're auto-picking the Archangel. Everything's coming on except for 1 unit of knights, which has failed a couple of reinforcement rolls. But what we're going to do here is we're going to, again, move through all the characters initially, then bring on all of the other stuff in the mid-game, and then lastly going with the priest and the militia, because they're already up in the midfield. I want to see if my opponent attacks with anything else before committing them. You can also see the mage as the 3rd to last card, because I'm expecting him to shoot at the priest's regiment with his flamecasters. I can then heal some stuff back with the mage. All right, Maharajah also committing to the left-hand flank opposite the militia. Interesting fun fact, these guys have Cleave 1 and Linebreaker, and the militia are Defense 1 shield, so they'll completely cut through all of the armor from the militia quite effectively and efficiently. Got some crossbows here opposite the Sorcerer's regiment. These guys are just going to hang back for the entire game. They're really there as a safety net in case he sends some sort of scoring unit over to my side to camp my 4-pointer zone. Over here we've got the Raj and his Rajakur just kind of traffic jamming behind the Maharajah. Not really the best deployment I've ever seen. I think that if you're going to be bringing them into this location, just make them too wide initially and go on the extreme left flank so that you're not blocking your own regiment in. Because if the Maharajah get into combat, you can't move through them with the Rajakur. My squires moving to the left, so they're double marching sideways 9 inches. You can see that from this position here, they've moved like that, just to clear way for the Noble Lord and the men-at-arms in that regiment there. We then have the sword dancers coming in here behind the Efreet flamecasters. They're committing to the main point of action, the midfield zone that the priest is currently camping. Forgot to mention we have another unit of flamecasters towards the middle of the table there. You can sort of see them on the right-hand side of the photo. We then have the Archangel. This, of course, is my converted proxy regiment to to count as the Archangel, coming in exactly between the Men-at-Arms and Household Guard. Very happy with this position because then I can offer the speed boost from the Divine Purpose to both of those large regiments, but also if this gets into combat, for example, with that unit of Ifrit further down the field, I might even be able to lend some of the regen that it offers from the Sword and Shield variant to my blocks of troops. Speaking of Ifrits, these guys just gingerly sort of moving forward to get a few pot shots at the priest. Not everybody gets into range, but he's just sort of setting up on the edge of this hill there, and the shooting goes off, does a couple of wounds to the priest, and of course they get healed back by the mage. Good thing that's happened first, because now the Household Guards are double marching over onto the objective. They are going to help to score here, and then the next turn I can start bowling directly into his gun line, and hopefully just keeping him off that objective so I can go through maybe 3 or 4 rounds of just pure scoring and get well into the lead. Goals moving through the forest now. This is fine. Part of the idea here is that when the supremacy turn comes up for the priest, everything's going to get blessed, and because the squires are going to count as theists, they're going to get +2 speed, easily outcharging the goals and hopefully using blessed to destroy the goals for free without any really fight back. Then the mage is just making sure she's camping behind here, just marching to the side a little bit. I do notice that my opponent is on a hill and has size 2 creatures, so this little line of crossbows plus the mage will be able to shoot over top of the infantry onto the brutes and potentially the Mahout when they're up there. Speaking of the Mahout, this is also coming in behind the line for the main 3-pointer objective, with, of course, the Maharajah sitting on top there. This is fine. The Mahout can do quite a lot back here in terms of spellcasting, and then when it comes later into the game, you can attack, and this avoids a situation where you're getting attacked from multiple sides by various different things. So this is probably where I would have put it as well. It's a good spot for it. So, here is the play at the end of turn 3. This is a critical one. The Theist priest has decided to cast a spell on his own regiment, blessed or whatever it is, and that gives them some extra speed. And they charge the Ifrits. This is without the benefit of the Elysian Fragment. And we're able to do enough damage to the Ifrit that it's reduced them to 1 stand. The thinking here is that in the following turn, where I am likely to have the advantage because my opponent won the roll the previous turn, I'm likely to win the roll, and if I activate the supremacy, I get a free blessed on my regiment, and because he's only got like 1 wound left on this regiment, I can actually fire a holy fire as long as I get a couple of hits. I'm going to be on 2s due to spell interference, but if I can get those 2 hits off, that will clear the Ifrits out, and I can charge whatever is behind them. That's probably going to be the Maharajah or the Sword Dancers, and hit them with a bunch of cleave 3s, and that's going to net me like a couple of brute kills in exchange for just my militia. So that is the game plan here. Another beautiful photo of a close-up here of the Flamecasters. Just loving the lighting here. Doing well. I mean, he's just done such a great page job of them as well. Okay, so here it is, the priest ready to go. You can see that we've chopped him down to just 1 stand remaining here in terms of the Flamecasters, and in the following turn, I've just got to win the reinforcement roll. We also have the archers just moving up into the forest a little bit just to try and get some shots off, but of course my Squires tenacious 2 against shooting, so not expecting much damage. So a bit of a zoom out here. This is the end of turn 3. We're about to go into the critical turn 4. You can sort of see the situation here, fighting over this objective. I've scored it twice now. I'm up 6 points. My opponent's got nothing. I've also nearly wiped out that unit of Ifrits on the hill, and he's got his Sword Dancers, Maharajah, Kur, and Mahout behind them. So I'm just going to try and rush past that Ifrit with my militia, kill some other unit, and then plant the Household Guards on the zone and just keep scoring for the next few turns, we're hoping. All right, so that's the plan. So you can see the priest and militia are the first draw, followed by the squires who are going to charge the goals, and then everything else can activate, with the mage going last because I want her to put a bit of healing onto the household guards. Household guards are third to last, and the Archangel is pretty late in the day as well. I want him to use his Ifrits to shoot first and then move the Archangel in range. This will be the supremacy turn for the priest, okay? So this is the one turn of the game that everything gets blessed. Let's have a look. So I win the roll, thank goodness, and the priest goes to destroy the Ifrit, which has 1 wound left. Roll my 6 dice and completely whiff it. Not even one single successful magic casting dice roll. Now that is a disaster, because it means that I've already popped the draw event to give myself Elysian Fragment, and the Militia are next. They are going to have to activate with, you know, just this one unit being the only thing that they can kill. Disaster. Absolutely shocking. So this was pretty bad. What I have to do here is use my entire clash action on that one Ifrit, which has 1 wound left. And obviously 20 attacks with Cleave 3 or whatever it is does the job. And then I'm simply going to reform in such a way that nothing that he's got can move directly onto the zone. I haven't used Blessed here. I can save that for defense, but the problem is that if he charges me with pretty much anything here, whether it's the Mahout, Sword Dancers, or Maharajah, these Militia are going to get absolutely thrashed. So it's going to go to the second line of defense, which is the Household Guard. But the problem is the Household Guard are going to be up against like 3 or 4 regiments, including the Mahout. So, needless to say, this turn didn't go the way I was hoping, but I was taking a little bit of a risk. Not every spell works every single time you cast it, but you can sort of see the position that I would have been in here, where if that Ifrit had died, the Militia are effectively speed 7 because of Divine Purpose. They've got a spell on them. I would have been arranged to charge the Sword Dancers, so he would have lost the Ifrit Flamecasters and the Sword Dancers, and then he's got to sort of attack my Militia with his Mahout or whatever, and the Household Guard have got a turn to move all the way across the zone. Shocking. So the Maharajah charged through. As I mentioned, they've got Cleave 1 and Linebreaker, so my Blessed just doesn't really even work here. But they don't get that many hits, so I lose a few stands. So there you go, 3 stands plus the character left after the Maharajah charged. Luckily for me, they're now kind of blocking the stuff behind them, because, you know, you can't move through a friendly regiment if they're engaged. So that's one small blessing. One thing that does go quite well for me, of course, is that the Squires have the benefit of Blessed right now. So they've got extra speed, they've got rerolls on their attacks, they come galloping into the goals. The Forest, of course, turns off the impacts, but I still wipe out the goals for free. So that's 1 regiment down. All right, here's Ifrits over here, can go up against my Squires, but in the Forest with Tenacious 2 against shooting, I'm not really taking any damage. Over here we have the crossbows just moving up a little bit against these Danur archers and stripping a few wounds off them, just long range with the Plonk bolts. Then the Mahout, of course, able to activate and move around here. Probably more likely the Sorcerer, the Maharajah activating. Burn to Cinders, of course, even with spell interference, can do quite a bit of damage to the Militia. But he does activate the Mahout, and he puts down this red token you can see right here between the Maharajah and the elephant. That is the Element of Earth marker that is a out-of-combat action. You place the marker, and then if the elephant stays on range of it, it gets untouchable for reroll 6s, which is excellent. Mahout is just such a strong monster at the moment. And a close-up on the Maharajah. Look at him. This is not actually the model it's meant to be on this top of the elephant. You've got like your favorite of Hormus for that, but he hasn't painted that, so the Maharajah is standing in. All right, I decided to rush the knights around the extreme flank, knowing that my opponent only has 1 unit remaining. That is his other monster, the Rakshasa. What's it called? Rakshasa. And if he brings the Rakshasa on over here to fend off the knights, that's going to give me a much easier time in the middle where I've got the Archangel and the Household Guard to start beating up his regiment. So that would be fine. But if he puts the Rakshasa over that other side of the battlefield, then it's just 1 unit of archers against my knights, and the knights are going to win that, even with the Sorcerer in there. And that's going to allow me to start scoring 4 points per turn, putting me way in the lead on scoring, which is something I'm quite keen on. So, my opponent has used Conflagration. Conflagration gives 3 activations to these sword boys, and he needs it because there wasn't enough space in between the Maharajah and the impassable tree that you see on the left-hand side of your screen there. So what he's had to do is he's had to reform the sword dancers, then charge, then clash. But of course, the impact hits plus the clash easily wiped out the militia, so no problem there whatsoever. I've then got the sword boys here marching in front of the squires, just in behind them into the forest. You can sort of see the play here, right? The squires are about to go after these archers and help out the knights to clear them out really quickly to free up that zone for me to start scoring. And then these guys are going to go through the middle with the support of the Archangel to deal with those Afrits and possibly his Rakshasa. So there's the Archangel just marching through here in between the Household Guard and the Squires. Very, very fast unit. And then like a bit of a zoomed out view of that same thing. That Archangel can either move to the left of your photo there towards the Mahout and the 3-pointer zone, or to the right where the archers in the 4-point zone is situated. Okay, so my opponent went to shoot at me with the archers, and I just gave him some friendly advice. I said, mate, why don't you just pull them back? Because if you don't do that, then the knights can charge you without going through the forest and will just kill you. Whereas if you move back there, I'm going to have to sort of come around. So he's taken my advice here, and he's sort of made the right play, which is to sort of keep them back a little bit. While they did that, though, they shot at my crossbowmen first before moving back, so I've taken a bunch of casualties, as you can see on the crossbows. Okay, Household Guard, charging the sword dancers, and as you can imagine, when you're pumping out 9 hits from the front there, plus another 18 from the supports at the back, plus the plus obviously you got the Noble Lord there, that completely obliterates the sword dancers, as you would expect. So there you go. That is where we're looking, and my militia have kept the Maharajah off the objective, and now I've got a bunch of stands of Household Guard on there, so I'm scoring again. So this is the end of turn 4. I've gone up 9 points to his 0, and I've killed a couple of regiments so far. He's taken a regiment and a character. I've killed 2 regiments, so I'm 9 points ahead, basically. So clearly winning this game, but we're only at the end of turn 4. Roger Coeur just trying to squeeze past his friends there, but as we noticed, he's not very well deployed, just doesn't really have much space. Trying to cast a spell, though, of course, onto various units nearby. And that's the overview of the battlefield at this end of the scoring turn 4. We've got me holding him off here on this zone with the Household Guard, and then to the left-hand side of the battlefield, his archers are the thin line of defense against that circle. You can't quite see the knights, but they are back there over behind that tree. And you can also see his Rakshasa being deployed in the center. So it's going to be Rakshasa against Archangel, but he does have Fiend Hunter. It is an anti-monster monster, if you know what I'm saying. So there's the photo of the left-hand view. We can see my knights trying to pounce in on those archers and free up that juicy 4-yield scoring zone. So what we're going to do going into turn 5 is we're going to go with Mage first, just because I don't really need to be very aggressive with anything else. You know, the knights will go through the forest. That won't really matter. I really want him to commit to a lot of the movement, and then I will counterattack once he comes in range. So to that end, I'm going to go with the Mage first and the Mercenary Crossbowmen to basically put out healing or whatever I need to do, and then shoot at the Mahout with my crossbows, and maybe move the Mage away. Also, if he goes first and attacks the Household Guard, the Mage can just quite clearly heal the Household Guard. Then we're activating everything after that, from, you know, Squires to Archangel, Knights, and right through to the Men-at-Arms. At the end, they don't want to leave the forest until there's something to, you know, come and greet. All right, my opponent going first with his Sorcerer here, and just trying to get some spells off to help out these archers. We then have my Mage, which doesn't really do anything, and then we come back to the Afrits here. They've got a little token at the back there to say that they're inflamed. Something is, I think the Mage is, yeah. What happened here is his Sorcerer casts a spell onto these Ifrits to make them inflame so they'll get torrential fire. And then my mage activates, as you can see here, to heal the friendly crossbows who've been damaged. Doesn't quite bring back a stand, though. So now he can move up with his Ifrits and shoot at the Archangel, but luckily the Archangel has a shield, as we talked about in the list review, and shrugs off most of the damage, which is great. So the Squires then can charge the Danoveda archers and stab them up pretty bad and keep them in place for the knights to come in later. We then have the Archangel against the Ifrits, doing a bit of damage to them, I think knocking off clocking one stand and damaging another. The Rakshasa will be able to move in a little bit later, but we've still got plenty of wounds there for the Archangel to work with. And if the Rakshasa comes forward, I can then attack with my men-at-arms who always have Divine Purpose because the Archangel's nearby, and I've got Caledburn, and I can start whacking him. All right, so that is what happens here. He's lost a stand, frees up some space. The Rakshasa moves in, does a bit of damage to the Archangel. It's got plenty of wounds left. Things move on. So over here, I'm marching the knights and then charging into the flank. The forest will turn off the impact hit, so the knights do no damage at all this turn. But next turn, they'll be free to clash the archers and then move on to the zone, especially considering that we could attack with the Squires first, and then the knights can clash a little bit and then move, and then we can achieve the goal that way. So over here, archers attacking the Squires and doing a bit of damage, etc., etc. So over here, the Maharajah have attacked the Household Guard. We then have the Household Guard reforming. They are always inspired because well, not always, but they just get a free inspire because of the Relentless Drill's global rule for 100 Kingdoms. So we're looking really good, and a lot of bashing and attacking, and we do some beautiful close-up photos for that, as you can expect. Just soak it in, very colourful and beautiful. And a close-up on the boys here. I love their little chipmunk teeth. Yeah. Okay, so that happens, and then the Mahout is able to get in here as well, doing a bunch of damage. Of course, the Mahout does impacts and clash and trample and all of that fun stuff. This particular turn, though, because the Maharajah were blocking his way, he had to reform and then charge. So he is getting the brutal impact and he is getting the trample, but there was no clash this turn. We'll see a clash next turn. Okay, so there it is. He's moved in. Okay, and that's what the miniature at the top of the Mahout is supposed to look like, but as you can see, it's unpainted, so can't wait to see the finished result, but yeah, that's coming up. Again, the Rajakur just kind of poorly deployed there, really, having to reform and then moving past the Household Guard. They're going to try and go after the Mage's unit behind the Household Guard to try and clip them and do the scoring and picking up a kill. Now, over here, we actually have a situation where I'm not quite in charge range yet, so I decided just to move within charge range. I didn't want to charge this turn, because if I march charge, then I'm just taking more Aura of Death hits next turn, and I'm taking away the opportunity for the monster to attack the men-at-arms. Next turn, I can just charge him and then just do all those walloping hits. And the other thing I had to do was I had to reform to move the character from one side to the other. So the Noble Lord is here right now. It was previously on that side, so the reform allowed me to scoot him over and then march forward, and that leaves us with this position where when I charge, the critical Noble Lord is in contact, and that's the one stand that does all the damage. The 8 attacks with rerolls, cleave 1, and my opponent rerolls armor saves. I can't afford for the Noble Lord to not be in contact, so the reform was entirely necessary there. Okay, we have the Mage just trying to recover a bit. She's been taking some damage from burnt to cinders, etc. from the Raj, but still hanging on. All right, so what we do next turn, this is going to be turn 6 after this, is where we're going to go Noble Lord first to do a duel with the Maharajah and entourage into the Household Guard. They are then going to blitz the Maharajah and do as much damage to the Mahout as they can. Then we're going to go into the Archangel to fight off the Rakshasa and the Ifrits. Then the Mage if she's still alive, and we're just going to work our way around to the Knights and everything else. So this is an overview of where we stand. Things actually starting to look a bit difficult here on the left-hand side here because that Mahout and the Rajakur together could pose problems for my Household Guard. And, you know, they're not invincible. There's a lot of them, but they don't last forever. And the Mage has been struggling to heal them because of the spell interference, right? Then on this side, things are going quite well because the Archers are dead meat. The Knights are going to go into that zone. I'm already like 12 points ahead on scoring, and we're going to increase that even more, but there's still going to be some turns left. In the middle, of course, you can see it's Ifrit plus Rakshasa versus Archangel and Noble Lord Men-at-Arms. So over here, we have Men-at-Arms against Maharajah and another beautiful photo of the clash action. On this side, we've got the Rakshasa against the Archangel doing a bunch more wounds to it. Very powerful, the Fiend Hunter, and that ends up being quite painful. The Archangel, of course, when it activates, it has to take Aura of Death hits. So what he does is he reduces me to like 1 wound, and then I take the Aura of Death, and then it dies. So unfortunate then to not be able to get an action to clash the Ifrit. Over here, he's just got 1 stand of Maharajah left. They're able to attack back onto the Household Guards, of course, and the Household Guards have done a bunch of damage to the Mahout, but not really quite killing it. It's very, very tough, and it does have Dread as well, which is painful. So over here, the Mage still hanging on for dear life, trying to get some heals off, as far as I can recall, trying to shoot at the elephant. My opponent even using the heal spell from Court of Earth to bring a few wounds back, which is kind of annoying. Then he's got his Flamecasters on this side. They have an opportunity to shoot at the Household Guards, so that is right in there to inflict a little bit more damage, to add that up. Then we have the Mounted Squires just chewing away at the Archers here. They're down to 2 stands, but they can still get a bit more damage done. One very interesting thing happens here, where my opponent can't really remove that stand there because that's the character, that's the sorcerer. And I think this stand here is meant to be the command stand, and this is the next unit along. So he actually removes this unit. I'm not too sure if that is technically correct, but that's what happened. And the Knights don't really have any room to move into contact with the rest of the unit, so they can't really be pushed through. So that separates the Knights out of the combat, which is interesting to say the least. Maharajah over here, casting some sort of spell, healing the elephant. Can't quite remember what he did at this point, but it looks cool. We then have the Noble Lord charging the monster here. The monster's already taken some damage, but the Noble Lord bashing it with a Caledburn, and unfortunately, there's still some Afrits hanging around here, but this is going to be the new fight. It's going to be the Sword Boys versus the Tiger Monster. There you can see the Maharajah, the Mahout down to just 10 wounds, but that's half of its wounds. It's still got plenty more wounds there, and I've only got like 4 stands of Household Guard left, so they're crumbling fast. Once we have a clash from the Mahout, they're going to be gone, and I'm going to be in a bit of trouble. So this is the interesting play here. Because the Knights are not in contact with the Archers anymore, there's nothing my opponent could stop me from reforming and marching onto the objective to clip it with 1 corner of that command stand there, or that flag bearer. So at the end of the turn, I'm going to get 4 points from this zone. So it's just exponentially zooming ahead on points here for the zones. As we were playing this game, I was just so caught up having so much fun, having the time of my life, that I really just forgot that we were even keeping track of army kills, and I wasn't noting that down on my notepad. So at this point in the game, I thought that I had clearly won, but just not the case, because my units are starting to die more quickly than his units are, and I've got a lot of characters. So it's actually still a pretty even game. Over here, the Raj moving into the forest and picking off the Mage with his Burn to Spell, and now he's scoring 3 points a turn for the rest of the game. So this is a way of him clawing it back. And given that I've lost my Warlord, plus the Noble Lord, plus the Household Guard, and the Mage, and the Crossbows, and the Archangel, all that stuff just died, and you get 2 objective points for each individual card and Warlord. So my opponent is just completely pulling the points back, even though to this stage of the game, he's not actually scored any of the zones at all, right? So we still have a few crossbows. They're plinking away into the Mage's unit and just doing a bit more damage there. And then the Mage just with 1 stand left trying to deal with the Squires, possibly with a spell. So zooming out over here, we've got the middle combat. It's Men-at-Arms against Monster. On the right-hand side, my opponent's completely cleared me out. On the left-hand side, I'm about to completely clear him out. So it's just going to be a bit of a race to the end of scoring. All right, so this is approximately turn 7. Men-at-Arms first to try and put the damage on the Rakshasa. Then the Knights are going to turn around onto the Archers, and then Crossbows Lord. We actually changed our minds about that. Now we're going with the Household Knights first. They've got quite a crucial play, then the Men-at-Arms. Okay, so over here, bashing the Rakshasa, but of course now he's got, Fiery Dominion going off, healing as a Freets, and he's able to shoot at me short range. That's pretty bad. The Knights start from this position, and I explained to my opponent that it's possible for me to march 7 inches out of the forest, so I've got at least 2 stands not touching the forest, and I can wheel in such a way that I get an angle to his regiment, and then charge him in the rear, which is what happens. So 2 of these Knights are not going through the forest. That allows me to do impact hits. That easily wipes out the Sorcerer. I net army points for those kills, and it's 4 points at the end of the turn for this. Noble Lord whacking away at the Rakshasa with his Excalibur there and doing a bit of damage to it, but not quite killing it. And, actually, he does kill it, excuse me. It does die. It's gone, but we've still got this very angry genie in front of us, firing fireballs. The Mahout then goes for a long-range run, so it marches and then charges into the side of the Men-at-Arms, and of course does crippling damage, because that's a brutal impacts charge from the flank, and then the tramples, so really effing me up from the side there. So when you do this zoom out, turns out that through the shooting and the spells and the Mahout, I completely lose the rest of my stuff. I've literally just got 1 stand of crossbows and my Knights. And my opponent, if you look at it, he's got 2 characters, the Raj and the Maharajah, and then he's got 4 regiments, so that's 6 things left, and I've got 2 things left, and I probably started the game with more cards than he did. So even though I've scored the 4-point zone like twice now, and I scored the 3-point zone like 4 times in a row, I've like rocketed up to like 24 points or something. My opponent is going to score 3 points per turn for the rest of the game, and he may be able to get over to my zone eventually, but the army points makes up the difference. So Knights just sitting here to avoid him moving on to the objective. He's just trying to rush towards the zones now. I'm getting into the zone with the crossbows just to try and block him off to my objective, but it's easy for him to just rush up with the Raj and incinerate them with a spell and get 2 more points for killing them, basically. And then when the Mahout pulls in through here, unfortunately my dice rolls were really bad. Even though he just gets an impacts and a trample, this killed enough Knights to completely break me, so that was the end of the game. And when we added everything up, even though after calculating how many points he gets for these zones at the end, I was still around about like 6 to 9 objective points ahead of him. But when we worked out the army points, he was like 12 points ahead of me. So the end result, my friends, of course, is a victory to the Sorcerer Kings. I didn't quite add it up, but I think it was somewhere between 2 and 6 points of difference for the Sorcerer Kings in the end. The outcome of this game is my fault. It is primarily because I didn't remember that army kills were going to be the decider. I played a strategy where I just wanted to try and outmaneuver him and commit to a spot where I could just score so many points before throwing away the rest of my army that I'd have an insurmountable lead. Not true. I forgot that he can easily catch up just by killing my army, so that's entirely my fault. The other thing that happened in this game, of course, is the priest whiffing that spell roll onto that Efreet with 1 wound left. If he had just passed that and got a couple of wounds through, then it would have died. I can charge the thing behind it, get a free kill, and then I would have been a fair bit ahead on that side of the board and probably would have ridden that one to a victory. But incredibly fun game, incredibly close game, incredibly enjoyable game. My opponent had a blast. He doesn't really get to play the game very much and has somebody else painting the miniatures for him, so it's great to see him. We really hope to see some more Sorcerer Kings in the future. And I'm probably going to report on the TTS event that I'm in at the moment, where I'm the one playing Sorcerer Kings with, of course, the Fire Court Sorcerer Warlord. More on that soon. If you haven't already watched my video of the Army List review. But for now, have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and thanks for watching.